The focus then shifts to the older woman, a 42-year-old friend of his mother. She is graceful in a way that feels effortless. Her presence is confident but not intimidating. She carries herself with the subtle elegance of someone comfortable in her own skin, dressed simply yet with a hint of sophistication. Perhaps a soft cashmere sweater and a flowing skirt that moves gently as she walks. Her laugh, warm and melodic, fills the room as she teases the narrator lightly about old childhood antics, showing a side of her that is approachable and human. The audience should immediately feel that she is more than just a friend of his mother. There's a depth and quiet magnetism that draws attention without overtly demanding it. Their interaction begins casually, with small talk over tea, reminiscing about his mother's past stories and his own childhood memories. He notices little details: how she tucks a strand of hair behind her ear with a delicate movement, how her fingers graze the edge of the teacup, or the slight warmth that radiates from her hand as she hands him a plate of cookies. These subtle touches, though innocent, carry emotional weight and hint at a connection deeper than ordinary friendship. Internally, the narrator experiences a quiet stirring of emotions. He is conscious of her presence in a way he hadn't anticipated. The curve of her smile, the soft sparkle in her eyes, the way her gaze lingers just a fraction longer than socially necessary. He questions the appropriateness of these thoughts but cannot ignore them. The audience should feel this internal conflict building, sensing the tension between admiration, comfort, and something slightly forbidden. Throughout this part, the narrative should emphasize sensory richness and subtle emotional cues rather than direct romantic actions. The warmth of sunlight, the aroma of tea and baked goods, the gentle hum of background life, all of these small details create an immersive environment. The way her voice softens when she laughs at a joke, or the brief brush of her hand on his shoulder, becomes a quiet heartbeat in the scene, guiding the audience to notice what the narrator notices without breaking the slow burn tone. By the end of this first keynote, the audience should feel the foundation of trust and familiarity firmly in place, along with a faint but undeniable tension. The story's emotional arc begins here, a mixture of warmth, admiration, and subtle longing that will grow naturally in the next parts. The stage is set for a connection that feels authentic, delicate, and YouTube-safe, leaving viewers intrigued and invested in seeing how this seemingly ordinary friendship might evolve. After the initial warmth and familiarity of their first afternoon together, the story shifts subtly to the narrator's growing awareness of the older woman, not just as his mother's friend, but as someone who stirs unexpected emotions within him. The scene unfolds in the evening, the golden sunlight having faded into the soft amber glow of indoor lamps, casting gentle shadows across the living room. The quiet is almost reverent, the kind of silence that allows small gestures and subtle interactions to carry more meaning than words. They settle on the sofa together, side by side, ostensibly to watch a casual television program. Yet, for the narrator, every moment becomes a study in awareness. He notices how she shifts slightly to get more comfortable, the way her hair brushes the side of her neck, and how the warm fabric of her sweater looks soft under the dim light. Her presence is calming, yet it also awakens a new sense of alertness in him. The audience should feel the narrator's perspective, attuned to the smallest nuances, the subtle grace in her movements, and the quiet intimacy of being near someone he admires. During casual conversation, her voice carries a natural warmth and confidence, punctuated by gentle laughter that makes him unconsciously lean closer. When she touches his arm to emphasize a story or to guide his attention to something, it is brief but electric, a fleeting contact that sends a shiver of awareness through him. The narrative here emphasizes the physicality of attention in non-romantic gestures, making the audience feel the tension building through proximity, touch, and shared space rather than overtly romantic acts. Internally, the narrator struggles with a storm of conflicting emotions. On one hand, he feels admiration and fascination with her elegance, intelligence, and the quiet depth of her personality. On the other hand, he experiences a growing hesitation, questions of propriety, age differences, and his own sense of guilt and confusion. This internal conflict is crucial for the slow burn tension, as the audience begins to see the emotional stakes rising without a single overtly romantic act having occurred. The scene is rich in sensory detail. The faint scent of her perfume lingers in the air, a soft blend of floral and warmth that subtly intertwines with the comforting smell of the room. The texture of the sofa cushions, the quiet creak of wood as she shifts, and the low hum of a ceiling fan contribute to an intimate, lived-in environment. The narrator's awareness of these small details mirrors his growing emotional attentiveness, making the audience feel the quiet gravity of the connection forming. By the end of this part, the story has deepened the audience's understanding of the characters' dynamic. Their relationship remains socially acceptable on the surface, but the emotional undercurrents are undeniable. The subtle tension, glances held too long, accidental touches, and heightened awareness of one another, creates anticipation for what might come next. Viewers are invited to empathize with the narrator's internal struggle, sensing both the pull toward this older woman and the restraint dictated by circumstance, setting the stage for a more intimate emotional development in the next part. The story deepens as the narrator and the older woman begin to share more personal, intimate moments, revealing sides of themselves that neither typically shows to others. This part takes place on a rainy afternoon, the soft drumming of rain against the windows creating a cocooned, private atmosphere. The house feels quieter than usual, the muted light of the overcast sky casting a gentle gray-blue hue over the furniture, blending comfort and introspection. The weather mirrors the emotional tone, soft, reflective, and slightly melancholy, ideal for fostering vulnerability. They find themselves in the kitchen, cups of steaming tea warming their hands. The air carries the faint scent of her perfume, mingling with the earthy aroma of rain outside and the comforting scent of brewed tea. As they sit together, the physical closeness is subtle but meaningful. His knees lightly brush hers under the table, the warmth of their hands occasionally meeting as they reach for sugar or stir their cups. These gentle contacts are layered with emotional resonance, signaling a connection growing beyond mere friendship. Conversation shifts naturally to more personal topics. The narrator admits frustrations about his career, his uncertainty about the future, and the occasional loneliness that comes from being caught between adolescence and adulthood. She listens intently, her eyes soft and reflective, nodding occasionally, her own emotions quietly mirrored in her expressions. When she shares her own experiences, recent disappointments, regrets about missed opportunities, and the subtle ache of solitude, the narrative emphasizes her calm honesty and the quiet strength she carries despite her vulnerability. Throughout this scene, the focus is on emotional intimacy rather than physical romance. The audience should feel the closeness without explicit gestures, her hand resting lightly on the table near his, the comforting tilt of her head as she listens, the occasional accidental brush of her arm against his. Every detail, the warmth of tea, the patter of rain, the low hum of the fridge, adds texture to the scene, making their shared vulnerability tangible and immersive. The narrator becomes increasingly aware of how safe he feels with her, a contrast to the tension and hesitation he experienced earlier. There is an unspoken trust that has formed. He can admit his fears and uncertainties without judgment, and she responds with gentle understanding. This creates a slow, simmering tension that is emotionally charged yet entirely appropriate for YouTube audiences. The emotional stakes are heightened because the intimacy is profound, rooted in empathy, listening, and shared honesty, rather than overt physical attraction. By the end of this keynote, the audience should feel that the bond between the narrator and the older woman has shifted. They are no longer merely acquaintances or friends of convenience. They are companions navigating the quiet complexities of life together. The emotional connection is now layered with subtle tension, the hint of attraction simmering beneath the warmth of empathy and understanding. This moment of vulnerability lays the foundation for the gradual escalation of closeness and romantic undertones in the subsequent parts of the story, keeping viewers invested in their journey. The story's pace begins to shift in this part, moving from emotional vulnerability toward gentle, non-sexual physical intimacy. The scene opens during an evening walk through a quiet neighborhood park, the sun having just set, leaving behind the soft glow of amber streetlights. The world around them is hushed. The rustle of leaves, the distant hum of a car, the occasional chirp of a cricket, creating an intimate stage for their interaction. The narrator is aware of her presence in a new way, noticing the rhythmic sway of her steps and the way her shadow dances lightly beside his. They walk side by side, their shoulders brushing occasionally. Each contact is accidental yet charged, a fleeting reminder of the tension building between them. The narrator feels the warmth radiating from her arm as they walk close together, and the subtle brush of her scarf against his hand sends an unexpected shiver up his spine. The sensory detail is key: the cool evening air, the faint scent of wet grass after a recent drizzle, the way her soft laughter mingles with the quiet of the night, all heighten the intimacy of the moment. Conversation flows naturally but quietly. They talk about small, mundane things, a favorite childhood park memory, the comfort of routine walks, a book one of them recently read, but underneath the surface, there is a subtle current of emotion. The narrator notices the way she tilts her head slightly when listening, the way her fingers curl loosely around the strap of her bag, or how she occasionally glances at him with something between curiosity and affection. These small gestures carry a weight that words cannot, deepening the audience's awareness of their growing bond. The narrator experiences a mixture of excitement and hesitation. He is acutely aware of the unspoken tension between them, the silent magnetic pull that makes each accidental touch feel meaningful. His heart beats a little faster when her hand comes close to his or when their shoulders brush. He is conscious of the appropriateness of his feelings, yet he cannot deny the electricity in their proximity. The audience should feel this tension, the slow, simmering realization of attraction, tempered by restraint and respect. In this part, the emphasis is on sensory-rich storytelling and body language rather than verbal confession. Their connection is conveyed through subtle touches, lingering glances, and the rhythm of shared steps, allowing viewers to experience the growing tension and closeness organically. The narrative encourages empathy with the narrator's internal struggle, admiration and desire balanced by hesitation and social boundaries. By the end of Keynote 4, the audience should feel the emotional and physical intimacy deepening. The older woman is no longer just a comforting presence, she is someone who occupies his awareness in a profound, almost magnetic way. Yet the slow-burn tension remains intact. Their connection is tantalizingly close, flirtatiously restrained, and emotionally resonant. This chapter sets the stage for the emotional climax, where internal conflict and subtle attraction collide, keeping viewers fully engaged in their evolving relationship. The story now reaches a turning point, where the slow-burn tension between the narrator and the older woman begins to peak emotionally, though still entirely within the bounds of a YouTube-safe, non-sexual romance. The setting is an intimate evening at her home, with the soft glow of a table lamp illuminating the living room. Outside, the night is quiet, the faint hum of distant traffic blending with the occasional rustle of trees in a gentle breeze. The atmosphere is serene but charged, a perfect backdrop for internal conflict and subtle romantic cues. They are seated close on the sofa, ostensibly to watch a casual movie, though the television is mostly background noise. The narrator notices every detail more acutely than before: the soft curve of her neck illuminated by the lamp, the way her hair falls slightly over her shoulder, and the warmth radiating from her proximity. Their hands meet briefly as they reach for the same bowl of popcorn, a moment so ordinary, yet loaded with electricity. The brush of her fingers against his sparks an awareness he cannot ignore. Internally, the narrator is in turmoil. He feels a magnetic pull toward her, a deep, almost instinctual desire for closeness that conflicts with reason and social expectations. He is acutely conscious of their age difference, the familial context, and his own uncertainty about how to interpret these feelings. Yet, alongside hesitation, there is undeniable fascination, the way she looks at him, not with judgment, but with quiet curiosity and warmth. The audience should feel his internal struggle vividly. He is captivated, conflicted, and deeply aware of the moment's significance. Her body language mirrors this tension. She leans slightly toward him to adjust a blanket, her hand brushing the back of his arm. The contact is brief, accidental in intention, but charged in effect. She glances at him and holds his gaze for a heartbeat longer than expected, a silent acknowledgement of the unspoken tension between them. These subtle actions are critical for maintaining a slow-burn romantic feel, allowing viewers to sense desire and anticipation without any explicit content. The sensory details heighten the intimacy. The warmth of her arm where it brushes his, the faint scent of her perfume mingling with the soft aroma of popcorn, the low hum of the television, all create a textured, immersive environment. Even the slight nervousness in their movements, the way his hand hovers near hers or the quick glance he gives to gauge her reaction, serves to draw the audience into their inner world, making every small interaction feel significant. By the end of this part, the emotional stakes have been raised considerably. The narrator and the older woman are both aware of a tension that cannot be ignored, a pull that is subtle yet undeniable. They teeter on the edge of intimacy, and the audience feels that the climactic moment, the kiss, is imminent. This keynote sets the stage for the next chapter, where the slow burn tension will finally give way to a transformative emotional and physical gesture, deepening their connection in a believable, YouTube-safe way. The story reaches its emotional climax in this chapter, where the tension built over the previous parts culminates in a gentle, transformative moment of connection. The setting is intimate and quiet, the hallway of her home, softly illuminated by the warm glow of a single overhead light. Outside, the night is still, the cool air drifting faintly through a partially open window. The hush of the world beyond mirrors the suspended anticipation between them, creating a sense of privacy and focus entirely on the character's emotions. The narrator has just been walking her to the door after a casual evening together, an evening filled with laughter, conversation, and the subtle but charged touches of prior parts. There is a pause in movement, a shared silence that carries weight. He is acutely aware of her presence, the subtle warmth of her body near his, the soft cadence of her breathing, the faint scent of her perfume lingering in the space between them. Every detail, the rustle of fabric as she shifts, the gentle click of her slippers against the floor, becomes magnified in his heightened awareness. Then, in a moment that feels both sudden and inevitable, she leans slightly closer. There is hesitation in her movement, a conscious awareness of boundaries, but also an undeniable pull toward him. Her eyes meet his with an intensity that communicates both curiosity and unspoken desire. The narrator feels his heart quicken, a mixture of shock, anticipation, and a strange, thrilling serenity. The kiss itself is subtle, tender, and emotionally charged. It is pressed lightly to his cheek, a gesture that is intimate yet wholly innocent, full of meaning without crossing boundaries. The warmth of her lips, the brief pressure of her hand resting gently on his arm, and the lingering closeness create a quiet electricity. He senses her heartbeat for a fleeting moment, steady and comforting, and this simple contact carries the weight of everything unsaid between them. The audience should feel this moment's emotional resonance deeply, the kind of gesture that transforms familiarity into intimacy. Immediately following the kiss, both characters pause, a brief stillness hanging in the air. The narrator experiences a rush of conflicting emotions, exhilaration, confusion, a sudden awareness of propriety, and a profound warmth that fills him entirely. She, too, seems momentarily vulnerable, her eyes reflecting the hesitation and honesty of someone who has acknowledged a shared attraction while respecting boundaries. Their shared silence after the kiss reinforces the significance of the moment, letting the audience absorb its emotional weight. This chapter emphasizes the power of restraint and subtlety in romantic storytelling. The kiss is not sensational or sexualized. It is a quiet, meaningful gesture that deepens emotional intimacy and reinforces the slow burn connection. The sensory details, the warmth, the proximity, the faint scent, the softness of touch, anchor the moment in realism, allowing viewers to feel as though they are witnessing a private, transformative interaction. By the end of Keynote 6, the emotional stakes are at their highest. The kiss marks a turning point in the relationship, confirming the unspoken attraction and setting the stage for a resolution that balances desire, trust, and emotional honesty. Viewers are left fully invested in the characters' bond, eager to see how they navigate the aftermath of this pivotal moment. After the quiet intensity of the pivotal kiss, the story moves into a phase of reflection and emotional resolution. This chapter is about honest communication, acceptance, and the gentle solidification of their bond, keeping it emotionally satisfying and YouTube safe. The setting is a cozy morning in her kitchen, sunlight streaming softly through sheer curtains, dust particles glinting in the golden rays. The warmth of the room mirrors the warmth in their connection, signaling comfort, familiarity, and safety. They sit across from each other at the kitchen table, a simple ritual of morning coffee creating an intimate backdrop for conversation. The air carries the rich aroma of brewed coffee mingled with faint traces of her perfume and the subtle scent of fresh toast. Their hands occasionally brush as they reach for mugs or butter, each touch now feeling deliberate yet natural. Unlike the earlier accidental brushes, these moments convey a conscious closeness, a shared acknowledgement of the emotional bond they've formed. The conversation begins cautiously, tentative at first, both aware of the previous night's kiss. The narrator admits his initial confusion and the unexpected way he felt drawn to her. She responds with a calm honesty, explaining her own hesitation and how the fleeting moment reflected a deep, unspoken connection rather than impulsive desire. There is no defensiveness, no need for dramatic explanations, just quiet, sincere words exchanged with trust and openness. This emphasizes emotional intimacy over physicality, allowing the audience to feel the depth of their understanding. Physically, they remain close but respectful. Her hands rest lightly on the table, fingers occasionally brushing his. His posture subtly mirrors hers, leaning slightly forward, engaged, attentive. These gestures reinforce that their bond is rooted in empathy, respect, and emotional resonance, not mere attraction. The narrator notices the warmth in her eyes, the softness in her smile, and the comforting steadiness of her presence. The audience should feel that these small, nuanced cues carry the same emotional weight as any dramatic confession. As they continue to talk, there is laughter, light, easy, and freeing. They reminisce about minor past events, tease each other gently, and share small future plans, such as meeting again for tea or walking in the park. These mundane moments take on significance because they are now shared intentionally, a reflection of a mutual choice to nurture their connection while respecting boundaries and the complexity of their lives. By the end of this chapter, the story reaches a gentle, satisfying conclusion. Their relationship has transformed. What was once an ordinary friendship between a mother's friend and her son has grown into a tender, emotionally intimate bond. The age difference remains acknowledged subtly through perspective and life experience, yet it is normalized within the trust and mutual understanding they share. The slow-burn tension has evolved into a quiet, enduring warmth, leaving viewers feeling content, emotionally fulfilled, and invested in the possibility of future moments together. This final part emphasizes that romance does not need to be overt to be powerful. The emotional journey, from familiarity, through tension and vulnerability, to understanding, is complete. Every glance, touch, and conversation now carries significance, leaving the audience with a lingering sense of intimacy, hope, and human connection.